I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're crushing NaNoWriMo. I'm sure that you are. And you know what? If you're not, it's okay too, because you're probably doing more writing than you would have otherwise. Today, I want to talk about character development. And character development is probably, arguably one of the most important things, if not the most important thing about any novel. It's also one of the trickiest techniques to kind of master and improve. And actually, talking about this topic, thinking about it, made me think about our book for last month for the Writerly Reads book club, which is a book club for writers and editors. But we read Writing the Breakout Novel by Donald Moss. And he has a chapter on characters, and I love what he says about it. Let's see if I can find it here. It says, "To my way of thinking, though, all stories are character-driven. Hot plot devices may propel a protagonist into action, even danger, but how involving is that when the action taken is what anybody would do? A plot is just a plot. It is the actions of a person that make it memorable or not. Great characters rise to the challenge of great events." I just think that's so true. As somebody who has consistently described herself as a character-driven reader, I just feel very validated by that. All right, so this feels a little daunting. I feel like it's a little bit overwhelming. We're going to take a journey together. I feel like we're gonna like climb a mountain, but you know what? We're just gonna take it one step at a time. And who knows, maybe this will be a part two. There will be a part two for this kind of video. There's just so much to cover about character development. So yeah, hopefully timestamps down below if I can remember to do that. And yeah, we're just gonna jump into 3 truths about character development. Number 1 is that characters must remain true to themselves. And this is some hippy-dippy stuff that I'm throwing at you guys, but just hear me out. As an editor, I really have to look out for character inconsistencies, because as a reader, there's nothing worse than being immersed in a story and then having to suddenly come out of that because a character's name is spelled wrong, or, you know, her eyes are blue in chapter 3 and then they're green in chapter 18. Now, those are just physical attributes or small details, and when there are deeper characterization issues, it can often be a little bit more difficult to pinpoint what's wrong. For instance, imagine that you're creating a character who's so evil that she is planning to kill her whole family. I don't know, that just got really morbid. We took it there. I don't know the context. Maybe she's a part of some covert conspiracy. Whatever, context doesn't matter. And then halfway through the novel, she suddenly becomes really frightened by something that a hitman that she hired says to her. Even if she is afraid of him, this is out of character for her to show her fear. She probably would have hid it or bossed him around or maybe even killed him. I'm not saying that characters can't surprise readers, because characters, like real people, should be complex, because real people are complex. I'm just saying be reasonable with how you're setting up your characters. If a villain turns soft, for instance, you wouldn't just drop that bomb halfway through the novel with no lead up or consequence or, you know, slowly building tension. You tell a newer story in small microscopic bits, you know, you're kind of peeling away the layer. This is how it works for people who root for characters that they don't necessarily like, because they're able to see past what maybe the people in their lives think of them, and they're able to see something authentic about them, something redeemable. Number 2, a character's weakest traits will often be why they change in the end, and their strongest traits will be what gets them into trouble. All that to say, you have to get to know your character's weak and strong traits. You have to flesh them out. Also, it's great to get to know your character's desires, fears, and motivations, but also, are there physical qualities that you can get to know? Are there habits that your characters do a lot, like when a character is flirtatious, does she run her hand through her hair, or does he tap his fingers on the table when he's nervous? Characterization of physical attributes can actually be really helpful with conveying emotion and also just grounding the reader in the scene. And number 3, the character's real goals, motivations, and conflict are what drive the entire novel. It drives every choice they make. So that means if your readers are losing interest, or if you're losing interest halfway through the book, you've lost sight of your character's main goal. When you're trying to avoid this sagging middle syndrome, I like to call it, here are 3 things you can do to kind of steer your manuscript back in the right direction. First, make your character's goals more urgent. It's okay if they haven't achieved those goals yet. In fact, often those goals change by the end of the novel. The original goal changes when the character grows and realizes maybe what he or she wanted in the beginning is no longer the right option. Number 2, flesh out the external and internal conflict, or the emotional conflict, to make sure that your characters aren't falling flat. Even action-packed books can be driven by emotional conflict. And number 3, motivation is the why behind the goal. Does that motivation push her toward her goal? And does that motivation continue throughout the novel? If not, how can you go back and layer in this element? Lastly, I just want to say that character charts can be really helpful, and that's where I'm going to pass this over to you. Do you create character charts when you're fleshing out your novel? And if you do, how do you go about doing that? I think so many of us can learn from one another in the comments. So that's where I'm going to leave you. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.